right, what is up, my brothers? In this video, we're going to be covering the 10 things that I wish that my father would have taught me about relationships and women that he never did, that I had to learn the hard way. Let's get right into it. The first thing, which almost every single guy has to learn the hard way, so pay attention, you younger ones right now, is that women do monkey branch very quickly. In fact, a lot more quickly than what most guys actually think. If you're newer to this channel and this concept of monkey branching, I want you to picture a monkey in a tree holding onto a branch, grabbing another branch, and then before they let go of that branch, they've got a good hold of a new branch. That's usually how primates will move between trees. So it's the same thing with women, actually, believe it or not. It's very rare that the women are ever single. There's usually not a lot of delay or time between whether it's short-term relationships, long-term relationships, or a mix of any of those things. But the grim reality of things, guys, is that women don't move along slowly a lot of the times like the way that us men do. They move very quickly. And from an evolutionary perspective, it seems to make sense because for a very long time, for hundreds of thousands of years, if women didn't move from one guy to the next that could protect them, it could have spelled certain doom for them and their children. There's a really interesting book called Sperm Wars. The author's name is Robin Baker, and I highly recommend you check it out. It really exemplifies and defines how quickly women move between men. In many cases, and as you sort of get through the book, it's almost a little bit blackpilling. It explains that in some cases it happens within the same day. In fact, there's a large chunk of the female population that has been with more than one guy within a 12-hour period. I'll let you guys go down the rabbit hole on that one yourself, but just understand that women do monkey branch very, very quickly. So the second point that I want to make is the notion of relationship equity. This is something I wish my old man would have taught me. We as guys think that if we treat her nice, buy her flowers, tell her she looks pretty in that dress, get her chocolates for Valentine's Day and anniversaries and stuff like that, that equity that you put into the relationship will somehow, somewhere pay dividends later on down the road. As if you're making deposits into this equity bank account of love or in relationship, but it never seems to pan out that way. There's this notion of Briffault's law, and quite simply, women only keep men around so long as they're able to get value out of that relationship. So that hamburger that you took her out to last night at the exclusive hamburger joint that she wanted to check out, that was an $80 burger, the top shelf one, doesn't matter the next day. She's already benefited from that, and she's looking for the next benefit the next day. And that's not to disparage women or female nature. That's just the reality of relationships, and the dynamic that exists between men and women is that there is no relationship equity that you can put into a relationship that you can make a withdrawal from 60, 90, 180 days down the road. Doesn't matter that you've renovated the kitchen to do it the way that she wants, moved to the neighborhood that she wanted you to move to, built a nanny or an in-law suite for her family to stay in for the summer. None of those things matter. There's no such thing as relationship equity when it comes to long-term relationships. The sooner that you understand this concept, the better off you will be. The third thing is women dating non-exclusively. There's this notion of spinning plates, which really just means dating a bunch of people, non-monogamous, in a simultaneous fashion. Women do this a lot more than men think. In fact, they probably do it more than men do, if we're being honest. I think that women are natural plate spinners. Because they're hypergamous nature and they want to get the best that they can get on the sexual marketplace, it forces them to compare and contrast when it comes to men. So it's very rare that when women are in the dating phase and they're evaluating a guy for something perhaps long-term, that they're only dating one guy at a time, although that's what they tell a lot of guys. It's more common that they're actually dating multiple guys simultaneously in a non-monogamous fashion so that they can let the cream rise to the top and figure out what is good from bad. And you can't blame them for that. It's actually a very smart strategy. It's one of the things that I encourage men to do as well, is that they don't settle for the first girl that likes them or responds promptly or touches your pee-pee. Choose women that choose you, right? Like, invite women into your life that want to be a part of your life, that make a concerted effort to join it and want to add some value to it, if I can put it that way. The fourth thing is, and I wish my dad really taught me this when I was younger, is that women get bored in relationships a lot faster than men do. Esther Perel studied this phenomenon throughout her career. She wrote about it in her book, Mating in Captivity. It's a good book, worth checking out. The first bit of it's a little bit slow, but towards the end it gets a lot better. But essentially what she observed is that women get bored in relationships much, much quicker than men do. I think that we both get bored or tired of each other in a long-term relationship. But women, it's like it goes down like a hockey stick, you know, if you know what I'm saying? Whereas guys, it's more of a slow, steady decline. It's something to be aware of when it comes to female nature and what drives the sexes. There's not a ton that you can do about it except for be her first choice, basically. Like, be the guy that she's chosen. Like I said earlier, choose women that choose you. The chance of boredom setting in early on and quickly, I think, is going to be diminished significantly if you use a good selection process for inviting the right kind of chick in your life. So just understand, again, I wish my dad had taught me this, but women do get bored much quicker than men do. And number 5, and again, another one I wish my old man would have taught me, is that women cheat as much, if not more, than men do, but especially when they're ovulating. Now, this is really, really important, and one that you want to keep an eye on, because if you're in a long-term relationship, let's say you're living with this gal, she might be your wife, and you start to notice a trend where she's going out with her girlfriends, putting on the big hoopty-hoop earrings, lots of bright red lipstick, getting the eyes and the hair and the push-up bra, lots of skin exposed, maybe a little low V-cut there, and she's doing that a lot. But when she's ovulating, there's a pretty strong chance that she's stepping out, or she's about to step out, probably because she's bored or she's looking for a way to untie the knot or monkey branch to the next guy. It's a reality of the sexual marketplace. A lot of people get mad when I say this. Oh, how do you know that's true? Da, 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 da. I've seen it firsthand. I've coached thousands of guys and got thousands of stories on it. But one of the most interesting sources that have verified that women cheat a lot, in fact more than guys do, is from psychologists. I've lost count of the number of psychologists, both men and women, that I've either spoken to personally or watched podcast interviews or read one of their books on, where they talk about stepping out in the long-term relationship. And they've observed that women do it far more than men do. They're actually a lot better at doing it and getting away with it because they just are. Women are duplicitous. They don't want to be caught. They don't want to be slut-shamed for stepping out in a long-term relationship. Again, I wish my old man taught me this, but it's not guys that cheat more. It's actually women that do it more. The other thing that I notice about the notion of stepping out and cheating is that when women do it, they always report a high level of dissatisfaction in their relationship. Whereas when men do it, they rarely report a high level of dissatisfaction in the long-term relationship. What does that mean? That usually means that she's probably not sleeping with him anymore, or very rarely. She's less available. She's more available to her friends and her social circle, sort of stuff like that. That's quite dangerous. Whereas guys, on the other hand, they can go and travel for a conference, love their family and their kids, maybe step out, maybe whatever happens, and they come back, kiss their wives and their children, and they're very happy, and they don't really have any level of dissatisfaction in the relationship. Men kind of do it just for the sake of variety, or I suppose if they can get away with it and not cause any headache in their marriage or in their primary relationship with their girlfriend, for example. But dissatisfaction doesn't rank very high for dudes. It ranks very high for women. So if she's stepping out, if she's cheating on you, she doesn't love you anymore, probably. All right, number 6, again, wish the old man taught me this one, but on a long-term basis, when women are evaluating a guy for a long-term commitment, they're very interested in your future. When women are vetting a guy for more short-term fun, let's say a one-night stand, a friends with benefits, something like that, they're only evaluating for attractiveness and for looks. That's really all that it boils down to. So I hate to break it to you guys, but if she's looking at you on a long-term basis, she's basically looking at your future ability to provide, protect, preside, even do all of the things that men are expected to do for a family, especially if she wants to have kids at some point. Women usually get to that point where they want to settle down, quote unquote, and have kids. Just understand that she's more interested in your future ability to provide, and less so much in what you look like and whether or not you're hot or not. That stuff matters, but not as much as you think. It matters far more to women when they're short-term dating, when they're looking for a hookup, when they go out salsa dancing with their girlfriends and they want to connect with Julio that night. You know what I'm saying? And number 7 is that you got to understand that women are truly disconnected from their sexual marketplace value. You can assign value to the opposite sex on a scale of 1 to 10. We do it all the time. People don't like that we do it, but it happens. Women evaluate men, men evaluate women. And what you'll start to notice as you get older is that women have a very high if not enriched opinion of their sexual marketplace value. There's a number of reasons for this. The main ones is that society and culture often, quote unquote, bigs up women. Oh, girl, you're beautiful, or more specifically, you're beautiful at any weight. This is one of the things that women hear all the time. There's also the notion that the vast majority of men will sleep with the vast majority of women, whereas the vast majority of women are very selective and won't sleep with the vast majority of men. So there's that as well. Generally speaking, most guys find themselves in a position because of female hypergamy where they're dealing with women that are of a lower sexual marketplace value, but a guy that's a 9 would easily be able to get a girlfriend that's a 7 or an 8. But those 7 or 8 girls are also in competition with the 3 and 4 girls, even the 2 girls who think that they have a shot at the 9. If you don't believe me, take a look at some of these street interviews where these guys with the microphones go out at night during the clubbing scene and they interview women and they ask them what they're looking for. And every single of these women, and again, alcohol is a little bit of a truth serum. They're usually a little bit drunk or they're getting there, or they've had a few drinks. Every single one of those women has a very, very high opinion of themselves and a very, very long list of demands of the men that they're looking for. And then when you see them in these videos, a lot of the times, you know, they're acting like they're a 9 or a 10, but visually they're like a 4. You'll see this stuff all the time. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Number 8, again, another one I wish my old man would have taught me, is that there are no good girls. You know, you hear the notion of good girls and bad girls and all that sort of stuff. There's no good girls. There's only bad girls that haven't been caught yet. There's bad girls that have been caught, and then there's bad girls that haven't been caught. There's a caveat to this, of course. If you've got a younger, pure type of gal, she's a virgin, for example, she hasn't gone out there and been promiscuous, hasn't made a whole bunch of bad choices. Let's say her father or her older brothers have set some reasonable boundaries for her to preserve her value. That's where you'll see the exception. But in the vast majority of cases, guys, if you're one of these dudes out there that's like messaging me, or you're hopping on like a booked call with me because you want a private consult, and you're like, hey, you know, I found this 33-year-old gal and she's a really good girl, and most of the women that I've met out there, they're all bad girls or they're awful and I don't want anything to do with them, but this one's a good girl. And it's like you start talking to them and you hear the story and it's the same thing over and over again. I've seen this movie a million times. I know the plot. I know how it ends. It's just not what you think it is, guys. You have to take a long, hard look at her past. I said earlier on that when women are vetting guys for a long-term relationship, they're very interested in your future. As a man, when you're dealing with a woman, especially if you're contemplating inviting into your life as a relationship, you should be very interested in her past. What did she spend her youth doing? What did she spend her 20s doing, right? Like, let's use this 33-year-old example. Did she spend her 20s traveling Europe, working on cruise ships, backpacking Asia, traveling around from job to job to job? You might look at her social media feed on Instagram, for example, and you see her on yachts and private jets and expensive cars and exotic locations, but she doesn't have a pot to piss in or a window to throw it out of. You know, guys have been paying for that entire experience. Be interested in her past. Just understand, guys, and I hate to tell you this, generally speaking, there's no good girls. They're all bad girls, with some small exceptions. Can they be reformed? Hey, look, I've said many times on social media, why does it seem like religion is always the final forum for promiscuous women? And maybe God or Jesus might forgive them for their past, but that doesn't mean that you should. Pay attention to these things, guys, and understand that notion. The 9th thing, and this was a big one for me, you know, when I tripped across it, again, I wish my old man had taught me this, is that women do feel regret for doing stupid shit. Whether that's making bad decisions in the past before she met you, whether that's her making a bad choice when she's out with her girlfriends, quote unquote, for a girls' weekend or something like that while you're in a relationship. Women do genuinely express regret. But there was a study that was done a number of years ago, and it revealed, surprisingly, that even though women express regret, they still repeat the behavior on a frequent basis. It doesn't stop or slow down or curb the behavior, if you can put it that way, but it continues, and in many cases it accelerates. They perform more of the undesirable behavior. So just because a woman's like, yeah, I made some stupid choices, I shouldn't have done that, that's not going to happen again, I wouldn't go believing that. I would watch the behavior. I would watch the future behavior and the choices. Like, if she made some bad choices going out with her girlfriends to stupid places, and then she decides not to hang out with those girls again, they're a bad influence. You know, I've often said, you're going to become the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. You spend time with 5 broke fat losers, you're going to become the 6, right? Same sort of thing. You know, if she abandons awful influences and bad social circles, then that's a good sign. But just understand that reality of that concept, guys. Again, women do feel regret, but it never changes their behavior. All right, the 10th and last thing that, again, I wish my old man would have taught me is that women rarely, if ever, settle down with their first choice. That's why you have so many unhappy marriages. I remember there was a joke made in Chris Rock's stand-up at one time, and he kind of paused, and he said to the audience, he said, "Men, fellas, the number one reason why your woman is pissed off at you today is because you're not her first choice." And the entire audience erupts in laughter. And they erupt in laughter because there's truth to every joke. They know that they're not her first choice. Even if they don't overtly know it or have come to that realization, somewhere inside them, somewhere within, there's a pain, there's a gut feeling that they know that they're probably not her first choice. It's very, very rare that women end up settling down with their first choice. Often what ends up happening is they make a whole bunch of dumb choices in their 20s. They party through most of their youth and their beauty. Too many parties, too many late nights, too many drugs, too many cigarettes. And then at some point they realize, oh, my biological clock is ticking. My girlfriends are starting to get married and have kids. I'm 29 years old. Maybe I should think about doing that. And they want to go and get right in life and find a guy that can pay for everything so she can stay home and pop out the kids usually. Sometimes she wants to be a professional and go back to work and put them in daycare. Whatever it happens to be, but women will very, very rarely get their first choice. There's a whole bunch of reasons for that. A lot of guys that are women's first choice aren't really the settling down kind of guys, or settling down kind of guys with, average kind of chicks or slightly above average kind of chicks. A lot of these guys, because they're spoiled for choice and they have so much in the way of options, and women do share men. I've said this many times before, is that women would rather be the king's mistress than to be the peasant's wife. So you have to understand that notion. You're generally not going to be her first choice when it comes to that. But again, through the selection process, you can be very careful with this and only invite the better ones into your life and then make a decision from there. There's a whole system and a whole process, guys. If you're looking for wife stock, you want to have kids, you're looking for a girlfriend, whatever it happens to be that I've put in my school of unplugging. It's a very inexpensive program I've got on the school platform. It's like $49 a month. It's pinned below. So if you've enjoyed this video, you should go check it out. Tons and tons of, there's hours upon hours of really useful content in that school. And you want to stay in for a month or two and get out, that's fine. There's also community options, Zoom calls, lots of interesting stuff. Go check that one out. We'll see you guys later. Have an awesome day. Peace.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.